Politics and War is a nation simulation game. In this way, it's similar to Civilization, Hearts of Iron, or the other Paradox games. What makes it different is that it's a browser game, it's multiplayer, and it's persistent. Players have been producing resources and fighting each other in the same world since 2013, and there are groups of players called alliances that have been fighting each other in similar games going back to 2003. Politics and War is all about learning, networking, planning, and creating stories that will affect thousands of people for years to come. It is not a single-player game. You need to engage in the community to succeed. However, you can work with other people to advance your own goals. You could fight for them, and in exchange they'll give you resources. Or you could give them your resources, and in exchange they'll fight for you. In this video, I'm going to list the things I wish I knew when I started, and some things that other people have suggested. I've broken these down into 4 broad categories: mechanics, community, politics, and path. Imitation. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. The top alliances have figured out the best ways to build your nation, and everyone copies them. Literally every guide you get from an alliance is fundamentally the same. They convey the same basic information with different colors and fonts. If you don't know how to build or grow your nation, then look at a top alliance and find a few nations that have the same city count as you. Look at their improvements, projects, and military, and then copy them. As you get better at the game, you can slowly change the builds to fit your playstyle without falling behind. And if you're just interested in politics or war, you never need to learn anything about your nation's economy. You can just focus on what's fun for you. Raiding. I've made a whole video on raiding, and the official tutorial spends a lot of time on it. You declare war on inactive nations, win as fast as possible, and take their money. The difference between good raiders and bad raiders is declaring 5 or 6 wars at a time, and logging in to launch attacks every day. If you do those 2 things, you'll make more money in a month than people that have been playing for years. I don't have any more advice about raiding, just do it. War. War is all about destroying your opponent's units until they give up. And if you lose all your units, it's about destroying your opponent's infra and waiting for them to get bored. Not all units are equal. Soldiers and tanks can only destroy soldiers and tanks, ships can only destroy ships, but aircraft can destroy aircraft and another unit of your choice. Destroy their units in this order: aircraft, tanks, ships, and finally soldiers. Alliance wars are decided in the first 36 hours, and they last for a month. As long as you log in and do damage at the start, then your alliance will be happy. If they give you instructions like waiting for wars to expire, then follow them. The people running an alliance war are monitoring thousands of nation wars, and they will happily explain why they gave you those instructions after the war is over. Individual wars are very slow, and alliance wars are very fast, because lots of small victories can lead to a big win. Your leaders will have very little time, and they expect you to treat it urgently. What separates the good fighters from the rest is activity, consistency, and cooperation. 10% of players do more than 60% of the damage in alliance wars, and you can do that while only playing for 5 minutes every day. Oh, and losing wars is normal, and rebuilding is easy. Do not delete your nation for any reason unless you plan to quit the game entirely. Commerce. There are 2 ways to make money. The first is raiding, and the second is commerce. Once you've got a few hundred million from raiding, then you should stop, and start buying infrastructure. Your infrastructure should be the same in every city, and rounded to the nearest 100. And you should have 500 more land than infrastructure. Short version, 2,000 infrastructure, and 2,500 land in every city. When your nation gets really large, it'll be 2,500 infrastructure, and 3,000 land in every city. In every city, you'll want 4 banks, 4 shopping malls, 3 stadiums, and 1 subway. Those improvements will get you 100% commerce, which generates more money from your infrastructure. You will also need 1 police station and a few hospitals to keep crime and disease at 0. Both of those stats reduce your income. Think of it like this. Every piece of infrastructure houses 100 people. Those people work in your city's improvements and pay taxes. That's how your nation makes money. If your improvements are mines and military buildings, they're not going to be paid much. If your improvements are banks and shopping malls, they'll get paid more. If there's lots of crime and disease, they can't go to work. The larger your population and the nicer their jobs, the more money you'll make. Production. Your nation should now have a nuclear power plant, commerce, civil, and some military improvements. However, you probably have a lot of slots left. When your nation is small, then fill these slots with mines. When your nation has 2,000 infrastructure, then buy 5 manufacturing improvements of 1 type, and as many mines as you can get to support it. For example, 5 gasoline refineries and 8 oil wells. When your nation has more than 30 cities and 2,500 infrastructure, then buy 4,000 land in every city and 20 farms. Do not buy any farms before this because they are useless for new players. Sell everything you produce and use the money to buy other resources or new cities. It doesn't matter how big your nation is for you to trade. Community. Interviews. To join the community, you first need to join an alliance. On day 1, you'll receive dozens of messages from the top alliances inviting you to join them. Read some of the messages and pick one that sounds good. You'll then need to apply in-game and join their Discord. However, they won't accept you into the alliance until you go through a brief interview. You can start this interview by clicking a button or typing a command in their Discord. The reason alliances interview new members is because they want to invest a lot of time and resources into growing your nation. Every interview will check you're a real person, you're not cheating, you haven't stolen from other alliances, and you've completed the tutorial. Some alliances with websites will also compare your IP address against other members to confirm you're not cheating, so be aware of that. Acronyms. Alliance names are really long, so most players use acronyms instead. For example, the Syndicate is called TS and Knights Templar is called KT. Others have abbreviations like Camelot, which most people call CAM. The ranks within alliances have both acronyms and abbreviations. The head of economic affairs can also be called the head of EA or head of econ. Treaties between alliances have acronyms too. A mutual defense treaty is called an MDP, and a non-aggression pact is called an NAP. You will learn these as you go. Most players only need to know a handful of acronyms, and these will replace the real names in your mind. Lots of people know the Alliance Gator, but no one knows what their full name is. As a new player, it can look like people are talking another language. It sucks and it feels exclusionary. But when you start to learn that language, you'll feel like a member of the community, and it's very satisfying. The head of FA for LOD signed an MDP with DB after granting AUPs. Comment when you understand that one. Forums. The top alliances use the official forums to post announcements, argue with each other, and post memes. The only people that still use the forums are leaders, diplomats, and older players. If you want to work with those players, then you should try posting on the forums a bit. It's a good way to stand out. News servers. There are a lot of player-owned news servers on Discord, which give you notifications every time a big event happens. These servers also have channels where you can discuss the event and get a surface-level understanding of it. Radios. There are also player-run radios, or podcasts, which explain events in detail and interview important players. However, there's hundreds of hours of nonsense in between the interesting parts. For every interview with an important player, there's 5 hours of fart jokes, insults, and propaganda. Join a few radios to see if you like them, and if you can voice chat, then talk to the hosts after they end, and they'll help you move up in the game. 2 disclaimers. Lots of players record conversations, and people under 18 should avoid it entirely. Summary. If you talk in the news servers, show up to the radios, and post pleasantries on the forums, you'll be considered one of the more engaged players in the community. Once people recognize your name, lots of doors open. Oh, and your reputation will follow you, so don't be a dick. Politics. In character and out of character. Politics and War is a role-playing game, but it's weird. Everything you do that's related to the game is considered in character, and everything unrelated to the game is out of character. For example, a man named Joe has created a nation in Discord called Gold. As Gold, he lied to another player named Silver and stole his resources. Silver has 2 options. He can call Joe a liar and a thief, or he can call Gold a liar and a thief. It's the same person, but since it's only related to the game, he'll say Gold is a liar and a thief. This allows everyone to be heroes or villains without ruining their real-life reputations and directly insulting each other. Aside from that, there is no role-playing. Alliances have themes and players can have interesting titles like Duke or President, but these don't mean anything. Alliances. Your nation is more like a character than a country. It can be a soldier, a pirate, or a worker. And like a character, it can join a group of other characters in an alliance or team. Alliances are like countries. They have leaders, governments, rules, benefits, and they conduct diplomacy with each other. They argue about attacks on their members, plot against each other, and trade with each other. They even collect taxes from their members and use it to help newer and poorer players. It's important to remember that all the big alliances are competing, and they like to keep secrets. Do not share their announcements with people in other alliances, or they will kick you out. And if you decide to leave an alliance, make sure you tell them in advance, and pay back everything they've given you. Treaties. When two alliances have the same enemies, they'll sign a treaty with each other. A treaty is a contract that states they'll defend each other if they're attacked. The treaty web is a page that visualizes almost every treaty in the game. You can use it to learn who your allies are and predict which alliances will defend each other. However, the blue lines are optional treaties, which might not be used. You don't need to learn about everything on the treaty web. Just find your alliance and learn which alliances it's allied to. Those alliances and their members are your friends. If you get in trouble, they'll have your back, and as a rule, they're the only players that will say nice things about your alliance and your choice to be there. Spheres. When big alliances sign lots of treaties with smaller alliances, they create spheres of influence or blocks. Think of NATO or the EU or the Allies. In a sphere, there are big alliances with strong militaries and economies, and small alliances that rely on them for security. The big alliances make most of the decisions, and when they go to war, so does the rest of the sphere. You'll only hear about spheres when people are talking about alliance wars. It's easier to say Rose Sphere than Rose in the name of 20 smaller alliances they're allied to. Agendas. Everyone has an agenda. They want members or money or to deprive their enemies of those things. And most people want to have fun and make friends too. If you know what people want, then you'll find it easier to help them and ask for help. Reputation. Every major event involving an alliance will be reported on a news server. Every time this happens, the enemies of that alliance will turn the story into propaganda and insult them. The allies of that alliance will defend them, or stay quiet until it blows over. These attacks can be vicious. 1,000 people will know your name, and hundreds of them will call you the worst things in DMs, podcasts, forums, and hundreds of servers. It's tough, and everyone handles it differently. It feels like honor is talked up and almost every bad deed is denounced. But that is an inside joke. Good and bad are entirely relative in this game, and hypocrisy is the rule, not the exception. The only opinions that matter are those of your friends and your alliance. If you wait a week, the alliances and players that criticized you will be the ones being denounced, and everything you did will be forgotten or irrelevant. That said, there are things which will get you a good or bad reputation. Leaking, cowardice, and being too serious are bad traits. Competency, humor, and discretion are good traits. Betrayal. Betrayal is very common. Messages will be leaked, treaties will not be honored, taxes will be stolen, loans won't be repaid, and people will poach some of your friends and turn them against you. It can be personal, but it's also entirely standard. Over time, you will learn how to handle it, and you can get even if you want to or when you need to. Just stay civil and keep it in the game. There are several adversaries who have stabbed me in the back more times than I can count. They've worked against me for years. But they're also human beings, and when we aren't frustrating each other, we play other games or talk about TV shows. There are plenty of people that just suck though, and you should try to avoid them. Networking. Most of the high-level politics happens in VCs and group chats. Get access to these and you'll climb the ladder quickly both in influence and wealth. History. The wiki is useless. It only tells you who was in wars. Alliances don't control their wiki pages either, so the things on them are either outright lies or propaganda. Rose and TS both document their alliance's history on their wiki pages, and it's extremely contradictory. Talk to older players, read your alliance's announcements, and watch videos or listen to radios to learn about the game's history. If you're extra dedicated, visit the wiki pages to find links to old forum threads which discuss wars. Path. The top alliances operate like companies, and they use the word career to describe their journey in the game. Most of them join a big alliance, learn some skills, prove their loyalty, improve the organization, and get promoted when their boss retires. I will use the term path instead because there are lots of players that do more than that, and here I will offer some advice on how to follow the standard path to leader of a top alliance, and then I'll explain some alternatives. An alliance's government is separated into 4 ranks: Low Gov, High Gov, Second in Command, and Leader. There are also 4 members of the High Government, and they lead 4 departments. Within those departments there are Low Government, which act as assistants for the High Government. Departments. Each of the departments manages one aspect of the alliance and has their own culture, history, jokes, and associated personality traits. Each department thinks it's more important than the others. My advice is to try out a few and pick the one you like most. You can do all of them, but it's rare and the workload is too much for most people. If you like numbers and can tolerate repetition, then join the economic department. If you like teaching and can tolerate idiots, then join the Internal Affairs Department. If you like talking to people and can tolerate deception, then join the Foreign Affairs Department. If you like winning and can tolerate waking up at 3 a.m., then join the Military Affairs Department. Low-Gov. Departments have lots of responsibilities, and most of them require a lot of trust. The High-Gov will assign the Low-Gov some of these responsibilities. If they perform well, then they'll earn more trust and get more responsibilities. Eventually, either by loyalty or innovation, one of the Low-Gov will prove they should replace the High-Gov that leads their department. This usually happens every 6 months or once a year. High-Gov. The High-Gov manage the most important parts of their department and hire and fire their Low-Gov. They also have a private channel with other High-Gov, second-in-command, and leaders. This channel is where they make all the Alliance's big decisions, including wars, treaties, and mergers. This is probably the highest point in the path of an active player. It's an achievable goal that doesn't require years of dedication, and you can leave a big mark on the game. Plus, if you mess up, it'll go on the leader's record, not yours. It also gives you tons of connections, priority for grants or loans, and so long as you don't get kicked out, it's a great reference if you want to move on. Second-in-command. It's much harder to become a second-in-command. You have to be the most useful person in the Alliance, and the most trusted. Leaders are notoriously paranoid because there are lots of coups. Once someone gets that role, they'll have it until they retire, or the leader changes to someone that doesn't trust them. Leader. You become a leader by creating an alliance, merging, becoming friends with the leader that's retiring, winning an election, or by becoming second in command and then taking over. It's way easier to become a leader in a small alliance or one that's experiencing instability. However, it is so much harder to lead a small alliance. In a big alliance, everyone is competent, and you're making small improvements with advice from experts. And you have as much power and money as you need to fulfill your goals, so long as they are reasonable. In a small alliance, everything relies on you. You have to understand every department well enough to train other people to lead them, and train others. You also have to convince people to help you reach your goals, despite a lot of setbacks. Most small alliances peak at rank 50, and this is a huge accomplishment. This is hard to do, and it's even harder to sustain. They reach rank 50, they lose steam, they retire, and the alliance merges. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Alternatives. Alternatively, you can be a pirate, a business person, or a freelancer. Pirates raid other nations or act as mercenaries for alliances to get the best stats in the game. Business people acquire and loan money. They join low-tax alliances and convince members to invest and borrow from them. They basically replace the grant system and take a cut. The freelancers are coders and artists. Most players are members of alliances that don't do any of this. They don't rank up in their alliance or specialize in some other way. They talk shit, they participate in events which involve thousands of people, and they listen to the top alliances explain their feuds and reasons for war. They have fun, and it only takes 5 minutes compared to the hours some people put into this game. Ultimately, you decide what you want to do in this game, and I hope this beginner video is somewhat helpful.